Back now at 8:11 with tennis legend Andre Agassi. Following a 21-year career filled with ups and downs, he made a memorable and emotional exit from the professional stage in 2006 following a defeat at the U.S. Open. Since then, he has devoted most of his time to his family, raising 2 children with wife and fellow tennis star Steffi Graf. He is also busy with the Andre Agassi College Prep Academy, a school he started in his hometown of Las Vegas. And he is out with Open, an autobiography, a new book about his life that contains some shocking revelations. Andre, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here and see you.
Shocking revelations for sure, beginning with your admission that you hate tennis and almost always have. You talk about in this book the pressure that your dad put on you from the time you were a little boy to excel at this sport. You talk about your failed marriage to actress Brooke Shields. You also talk about what was probably the lowest point in your life, one of the lowest, and that's the one that a lot of people are talking about, your use of crystal meth.
Sure.
We are going to touch on all of those, but first, you know, you're retired now. You're not in the public eye the same way you used to be. You didn't have to reveal all of this about your life. Why did you make the decision to be so open?
Well, first of all, if I were to do a book, I wouldn't do it halfway. It would be something that I feel somebody can learn from or get inspired by as it relates to my story. But, you know, I found myself at a time in my life where I wanted to take my story, find the story, the narrative in my life, and offer that to people to help them. I think, you know, there's millions of people out there that wake up in a life that they didn't choose for themselves, and that's what I found in my life. I never chose tennis. I didn't choose it till I was 27 years old. And you know, what do you do at that point? You know, and I think this can have some real power.
Your dad, Mike, is the one who chose tennis for you when you were little. You write about it extensively in the book about, you know, standing on that tennis court, and he's created sort of a jerry-rigged ball machine that fires balls that you called it the monster at 110 miles an hour. He didn't want you to just play tennis. He wanted you to be a champion. Why was he so hell-bent on that?
Yeah, I called it the dragon. But, you know, my father...
The dragon, I'm sorry.
My father had his own demons, if you will. You know, he's a man that grew up in Tehran, Iran, and he was a Christian Armenian and a Muslim Tehran. His mom used to sort of make him wear hand-me-down girls' clothes to school, so from a young age, he was getting a lot of fights on the street, and he's a very driven man, but he's a fighter by nature. Came to America not speaking English, put himself through school, raised 4 kids, was very, very hard on himself, very disciplined, but that sort of rage that he used to keep, you know, he directed it at tennis. And I always felt he loved us. It wasn't an issue of that. It wasn't an abusive thing, but it was an intensity that if you didn't play well, it changed the meal that night at your house. And you know, for a 7-year-old, that leaves an impression. There's
a picture of you actually in the back of the book. I don't know whether you're 6 or 7 at that point.
Yeah.
When you look at that picture of you, who do you see? Who was this little boy?
Pretty scared little guy, you know. I mean, I internalized a lot, you know, and a lot of my pains my parents didn't see. But, you know, I watched 3 other siblings that I have that are older than me go through, you know, a lot of the same emotions in different ways. But I internalized, and I see somebody that's scared, somebody that doesn't want to play the game.
But you play it anyway.
But I played anyway, and that contradiction between what I want to do and what I choose to do felt like the core of my life.
And your dad, sort of to give an indication to the readers of just how much he wanted this for you and how driven he was to see you succeed. You tell a story about him giving you a little white pill that turned out to be speed. You're 11 years old, and your brother had even warned you that this might happen.
Yeah, my father used to give me Excedrin before I played matches for that caffeine. He thought it would help me, and the Excedrin actually did help me, but then he got this one pill that somebody told him was kind of souped up Excedrin, and he wanted to give that a go, anything to get me to achieve the American dream. And that's the thing I also point out in that particular scenario with my father, which he would give me that, but the second I told him it didn't make me feel good or something was wrong, he would turn on a dime. My father could deal with your pain and change if he knew your pain, but a lot of times he wasn't aware of it.
So at 14, you drop out of school. By 16, you've turned pro. By 20, you're the darling on the tennis court. You're known for with the rock star looks and that long hair. Comes 1990, the French Open. What people don't know when they see the pictures of you, I think we're going to put that. What they don't know is that hair wasn't even yours at that point. It was a weave, and on that day, it was falling out. You had it held together with bobby pins.
I did the night before the finals of the French Open. I used the wrong conditioner, and my hair started to pull out of it, and it was about 80% off my head.
So that's another lie you were living. Why was that hair so important to you?
I watched my brother lose his hair. It was very emotional for him. That left an impression on me. Plus, it was so connected to my image. It was so connected to what people said about me. And and I didn't know myself. And when you don't know yourself, you're not comfortable in your own skin. And losing my hair was something I struggled with. I actually had a lot of fun though writing about it. Reflecting back on just how important it seemed.
To remember when, especially now that you have not. And it was really your girlfriend at the time, Brooke Shields, who convinced you a few years later, said, look, just shave your head.
Yeah.
And you went on to marry her, but in the book you say you knew that it was wrong. You talk about at your wedding there was a look-alike of her, sort of to fend off the paparazzi, to throw them off. And you write the following in the book: as I see the Brooke look-alike leaving, I have a thought no man should have on his wedding day. I wish I were leaving too. I wish I had a decoy groom to take my place. That was more than just jitters, wasn't it?
It was. I think at that time in my life, I couldn't have been married to anybody. I think timing is really important. You need in marriage two people that understand themselves before you can start to figure out how life's going to work together. And I certainly didn't understand myself.
So why, Andre, did you go down that path, do you think, now?
It was so familiar to me. I mean, I played tennis, and something I didn't want to do. And it was never, I was very familiar with the feeling of doing something that I just don't want to do. I just never had a choice, and I didn't make a good decision. But it was a familiar feeling. I said, well, why not? I mean, I've always given up on relationships at 2-year blocks in my life historically, and here's this 2-year block, and it's like maybe I could just figure it out.
Speaking of why not, you said why not in 1997 when you married Brooke Shield, and in 1997 you said why not to crystal meth, the low point in your life. Your I don't know who was Slim, your assistant at the time, offered it to you, and you said, and I'm quoting you now, you said after you took it, to get an undeniable satisfaction from harming myself and shortening my career. That's why you tried it.
Well, I was depressed is really the big reason. I mean, I found myself in a life I didn't want to be in. I was doing something that I hated, that I hadn't chosen for myself. I was in a marriage I didn't want to be in, and I was depressed, no energy, pulling out of tournaments, and here somebody comes along and offers me an escape, and I took it. And like most mistakes that people make, they lead to more and more mistakes.
Were you hoping that it would destroy your career?
I think in some sort of odd way. I've thought about quitting many times, and it was just hard for me. I never quite had the strength to quit. I wanted to continue in some way. I had this conflict. And I just knew that maybe this will just remove the choice for me. It's like wishing yourself injury on the court, which I used to get that feeling a lot too. If I just fell over and broke my ankle, I mean, gosh, I wouldn't have to do this.
And then there was the phone call that came that changed everything. We're going to come back and talk about that. Andre Agassi, we'll be back with more right after this. We are back talking to tennis legend Andre Agassi about his new autobiography, Open. Andre, thank you for sticking around.
Sure.
We left off 1997. You start taking crystal meth with your assistant. Towards the end of that year, you made a decision. You want to stop this, and you want to start taking tennis seriously again because you've been losing consistently. And right about then, you get a phone call from a member of the Tennis Association, an official with USTA actually, saying that they've got a urine test on you and you've tested positive for crystal meth. You have been caught.
Yeah.
And you find yourself in yet again a lie. You write them a letter, and what do you say?
In the letter, I lie. I didn't know what to do. I had nowhere to turn.
Because they want an explanation.
Yeah, I was ashamed of it. I was scared. I was panicked. I had no one to turn to because nobody knew in my life. And I wrote a letter filled with lies. I said my assistant had a spiked drink. It's how he used to ingest the drug. He's a known drug user. And I took a sip of his drink, and that came on the heels of me making a decision to not walk away from tennis. I was 141 in the world in Stuttgart when my coach said to me, Andre, you're too good for this. We got to start over, or we got to quit. And I remember looking out over the traffic, saying, how many people go on to lives that they don't want, that lives they didn't choose, but they find reason to do it. And I committed that day to a life that I'm going to choose. I can walk away from tennis, and it was that moment when I chose tennis that a lot started to change, and then that phone call came.
But they bought your excuse. They bought it, and you realized, and now I really have a second chance. Every day is going to be a day of atonement, and you began to turn your life around. The tennis improved. So did your personal life.
Well, I think that atonement is a great word, and I think this book, to be quite honest, is an atonement, because I had a lot more to lose in doing this than gain. But if a hit on my perception, it might not be what people perceive of me, but it is the truth of me, and I think there's a lot to be gained from it.
And as I said, your personal life also turned around. I mean, talk about some of the battles you've been in. The toughest one was probably getting Steffi Graf's attention, your wife, right? You've been trying for a long time, and she just blew you off time and time again. Finally, the two of you hit it off, and you got married. And
well, I had a phone call with her, and she had a boyfriend of 6 years, and I think I had one of the best lines ever in this conversation, because she was giving me no inroads at all, and there's a pause on the phone, and I just said, 6 years is a long time. And there's another pause, and she went, yes, it is. And I went, I saw a little weakness there.
And you moved in for the kill, and the two of you got married. You have two beautiful children now, Jaden and Jazz. You're wearing actually something that Jaden made for you. It says, Daddy Rocks. Daddy Rocks.
I haven't taken it off in 4 years.
All right. Thank you so much. So much I could talk to you about. Andre Agassi.
Thank you.
The autobiography is called Open.